Okay, folks, about that time again. Mouthpieces in, cup check time, hard knocks, and cheap shots.
And speaking of hard knocks, if we look at the Bernard Hopkins, who lost a unanimous decision to Sergey Kovalev in that unification fight Saturday night. And how about Kovalev? 38 punches in the final round. I mean, that's he didn't just beat Hopkins, he dominated.
There was a point in that last round where the ref could have easily stopped the fight. Hopkins was easily manhandled. I mean, he went down in the first round. I can't remember the last time that Hopkins went down, period. He's had a long storied career, but he was in there with a very powerful puncher whose knockout ratio is only surpassed by Gennady Golovkin, and he proved, Sergey Kovalev is now a name in this division.
Yeah, for me, I think that as soon as I saw that first punch in the first round, I was like, "Wow, that's this fight's going his way." So now that obviously he's taken down the great Bernard Hopkins, what's next for Sergey Kovalev?
Ideally, Kovalev would fight Adonis Stevenson. Problem is, Stevenson is a Showtime guy. Kovalev's an HBO guy. We already know the politics of that. Al Heyman's the type of guy where money talks. Maybe something could be done, but at the same time, Adonis Stevenson keeps turning down the fight against Kovalev. Is he ducking him? Who's to say? I mean, and I hope it doesn't become this BS of boxing politics that we get all the time. This, what I call the Pacquiao money conundrum, where it's like, the fight may never happen to me, quite frankly. But that really should be ideally the next step, would be Stevenson versus Kovalev.
That should be a fight to see if it ever happens. Moving on to WWE news. Alberto Del Rio, who was fired by WWE earlier this summer, has apparently reached an agreement with the company to not. The details say that they're not going to disparage each other.
Well, basically, we don't know what happened. Allegedly, social media employee of the WWE said racially disparaging comments about Alberto Del Rio, and Alberto Del Rio smacked fire out of his mouth. We don't know what happened, and obviously now with this disclosure, I mean, this allows Alberto Del Rio to now compete in America as opposed to just competing in Mexico, which gives him the opportunity for 2015, which he's already committed. He said he's going to go to Lucha Underground, El Rey Network's latest wrestling project. So it's a good WWE still wants to maintain a Hispanic presence. So, not having one of the biggest stars in Mexico talk real slick about them, it's a win-win for both El Patron Del Rio and for the WWE.
I'm just glad to see him finally back in the ring. On the path to be going back in the ring again. You were talking about one of the more talented guys in the in the ring that we've seen in a while. Even though his career was short in WWE, only 4 years, he accomplished a lot in those 4 years.
Absolutely. So we'll see. And as Del Rio said in a recent interview, he doesn't need the WWE, and the WWE doesn't need him. So I think it's a good parting of ways for both parties. So.
And moving on to UFC news, we have Fabricio Werdum going to be taking on Mark Hunt, who's going to be stepping in to replace the injured Cain Velasquez in the next UFC pay-per-view.
It's a shame because this was going to be Cain's I'm coming home party in Mexico. It's UFC's first pay-per-view in Mexico. He was the headliner. He was making this go. And now you have Mark Hunt versus Fabricio Werdum, which isn't a bad fight, but it's not the same fight.
There definitely is a super fight feeling in terms of Mexico when you're talking about bringing in Cain Velasquez, who he clearly wears the Mexican pride on his chest, literally.
Yeah.
And, it would have been a great starting point to UFC's expansion efforts into Mexico. I think at the very least we have something of a competitive fight here.
It's a competitive fight. I think Werdum's a better fighter. I think that Mark Hunt is one-dimensional. I think he's just a stand-up guy that hits hard. That doesn't mean that he can't knock Werdum out. But if this fight goes to the floor, I'd like Werdum's ground game a lot better than I like Mark Hunt's. At the same time, if Mark Hunt wins with that one-hitter quitter, if you're Brock Lesnar, you got to be looking at this list again. I keep going back to this. You keep looking at this top 10. I mean, outside of Werdum, outside of JDS, and outside of Cain Velasquez, he can take a lot of these guys.
I'd be all for that just to see Lesnar not sit on that WWE title for 4 or 5 more months without doing anything.
Hey, blame management for that. It's not his fault. They gave him a sweetheart deal, so.
Yeah, gotta take the money and run. And that turns up this edition of Hard Knocks and Cheap Shots. Remember to tune in next week for more. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and to continue the conversation, remember to log on to LatinPost.com. I'm John Paul Salamanca, this is Em Molina, and we are punching out.